Da alcuni giorni in città manca completamente sia la luce che l'acqua. I croati e i serbi, che hanno in mano i rubinetti di questi beni preziosi, hanno deciso di far soffrire ancora di più i cittadini di Sarajevo. L'obiettivo è evidente: togliere consenso ai leader musulmani. Oggi i più influenti esponenti di questa comunità si incontrano per discutere la bozza del piano di pace. Il presidente Izetbegovic dovrà dire se giudica questo piano accettabile e dovrà rivelare le offerte fatte dai croati. I bosniaci musulmani continuano a chiedere uno sbocco al mare per il loro futuro Stato e Izetbegovic è chiamato a chiarire quanto emerso su questo punto al tavolo della trattativa di Ginevra. Intanto proseguono violenti i combattimenti tra croati e musulmani a Mostar e soprattutto a Gornji Vakuf. I serbi, da parte loro, continuano a colpire con l'artiglieria la cittadina di Maglaj, ancora in mano ai musulmani.
Francuska TV5 javlja o jedinstvenoj pošiljci UNICEF-a koja je ovaj put u Sarajevo dopremila školske knjige.
Sur la route de l'aéroport à Sarajevo, à travers les ruines des faubourgs ouest, un convoi pas comme les autres. Il ne transporte pas de la nourriture ou des médicaments, mais des fournitures scolaires. L'UNICEF ainsi que des associations françaises comme Solidarité essaient de répondre aux besoins d'écoliers totalement démunis dans la ville assiégée. Solidarité a déjà livré 5 tonnes de cahiers et de crayons pour la rentrée des classes avec l'aide des casques bleus français. Les écoles sont fermées, réquisitionnées pour l'armée ou les réfugiés, mais grâce à quelques volontaires, les cours continuent dans les immeubles, le plus souvent au sous-sol pour la sécurité des enfants. Nous sommes à 500 mètres des lignes serbes. Au marché noir de Sarajevo, un cahier vaut l'équivalent d'un paquet de cigarettes, soit 1 mois de salaire. Pour ces enfants de CM1, ces fournitures scolaires valent de l'or. Tout ça pour moi. Avant la guerre, il y avait 78 professeurs pour le quartier. Il n'en reste que 8, auxquels s'ajoutent des parents d'élèves et des réfugiés comme Fikreta Melic, enseignante de Goražde, qui a perdu 30 kilos et 99% de son salaire. Faute de maître, les enfants ne sont scolarisés que 2h30 par jour.
Mes collègues et moi sommes très inquiets des conséquences de la guerre sur nos enfants. Figurez-vous que j'ai une élève en CM1 qui a déjà des cheveux blancs.
Leurs cours dureront autant que le permettront l'hiver et les obus. Pour ces enfants, la paix est particulièrement urgente.
A u selu u blizini Mostara, koje već 2 godine napadaju i Srbi i muslimani, vojnici Hrvatskog vijeća obrane na jedno se sigurno ne mogu požaliti: domaći kruh.
Bogu prenisko, ljudima previsoko, svijetu predaleko. Rat ih ipak nije zaobišao. Goranci, selo 20 km sjeverno od Mostara, u podnožju već sleđene planine Čabulje. Kuća obitelji Marić. Zatekli smo samo žene. Sin ove starice i njezina 4 unuka su na bojištu. Najmlađa unuka krpa uniforme, 5. unuk cijepa drva, u stapu se mete mliko, pravi se maslac. Napadali su ih i Srbi, a sada muslimani. Ispred kuće uspomena. Kasetna bomba srećom nije pogodila cilj. Što je na vama crna marama?
Pa što dok se veliko naroda izginuli ljudi.
Poginula sam najbolji sad branitelji, dušmani su jubili. Što smo im prolazili, nosili smo i vareniku tamo na punktove kad su lani prolazili. Žalila sam sažaljivala, mislim, Bože im prosti, ni Bog i više nije sažaljivao ko ja, a pogledaj šta danas od nas rade. Sram ih bilo.
Starice lože vatru i peku kruh za branitelje, ispod sača.
Za vojsku kompira, sira, masla, šta oni hoće. Mlijeka ima isto. Kruva, šta ja znade, ne to šta bi oni da nareknu, ima svega.
Šta imamo, to i dajemo.
Šta drugo, mi nemamo šta drugo.
I za našu ekipu iznijeli su na stol sve što su imali. Kažu, ništa im nije teško učiniti za vojsku, ali pitaju se ima li kraja.
Za neke mirovne, a nami svaki dan to gore. I mi vas da krivi, ima liko da to ima liko za nas, pa gdje, Bože moj, Bože, gdje si ti makar?
Tu se oduvijek živjelo i živjet će se. Kruh, voda i molitva. Zar ovaj kruh i ova voda nisu dovoljan dokaz za to?
U Ženevi se nastavlja mukotrpan posao. Novi krug pregovora o sukcesiji bivše Jugoslavije.
Valja podsjetiti da je jugoslovenska delegacija sve vreme insistirala na tome da se prethodno utvrde pravila po kojima će se određivati predmet sukcesije, kao i da Badenterov izveštaj koji predstavlja svojevrstan politički dokument ne može biti tretiran kao obavezujući pravni akt. Predsjedavajući grupe za sukcesiju ambasador Jorgen Boer pozvao je predstavnike bivših jugoslovenskih republika na sastanak u Ženevu na inicijativu kopredsjednika Ovena i Stoltenberga, od kojih je, kako se saznaje, pretrpeo velike kritike. Zasedanju grupe za sukcesiju nije se odazvala delegacija bivše Bosne i Hercegovine, čiji se razlozi drže u tajnosti. Prepodne obavljene su bilateralne konsultacije sa delegacijama bivše Jugoslovenske republike Makedonije, zatim Slovenije, Hrvatske i Savezne republike Jugoslavije, a popodne je rad nastavljen u plenumu. Zahtjev Republike Srpske da u pomenutoj ekspertskoj grupi Međunarodne konferencije o bivšoj Jugoslaviji ima stalnog predstavnika odbijen je uz obrazloženje da u radu učestvuje samo pozvana delegacija. U Ženevskoj palati nacije i dalje, međutim, najveću pažnju pobuđuje nastavak pregovora o Bosni i Hercegovini, preciznije kada će dvojica kopredsjednika zakazati dan potpisivanja ženevskog paketa. Zvaničnih najava tog sastanka još nema, jer se dolazak kopredsjednika u Ženevu očekuje kroz dan 2. U krugovima bliskim konferencije se ipak saznaje da bi nacionalni lideri iz Bosne i Hercegovine i trojica predsjednika Srbije, Crne Gore i Hrvatske već ovog vikenda mogli da se nađu u Ženevskoj palati nacija.
A u Srbiji, nakon što su prije manje od 1 dana natiskali novčanice sa 10 nula, danas najavljuju njihovo brisanje.
Narodna banka Jugoslavije pustit će 1. oktobra u opticaj nove novčanice od 5 i 10.000 dinara i kovani novac u apoenima od 1, 2, 5, 10, 50 i 100 dinara. Milion sadašnjih dinara će od 1. oktobra važiti kao 1 dinar. Zakonom o promjeni vrednosti nacionalne valute, koji su oba veća Savezne skupštine usvojila 22. septembra, nove vrste novčanica i kovanog novca Narodna banka Jugoslavije pustit će u opticaj do 30. novembra. Novčanice koje su sada u opticaju važit će kao zakonsko sredstvo plaćanja do 25. oktobra. Kako piše u službenom listu Savezne republike Jugoslavije, prestaće da važe novčanice od 1000, 5000, 10.000 i 50.000 dinara, emitovane prošle godine. Također će prestati da važi novčanice od 100.000, 500.000 i milion dinara izdate ove godine. Narodna banka će u periodu od 1. do 25. oktobra zameniti novčanice novim, kraćim za 6 nula.
Moskva je kriva za pad Suhumija jer nije željela zaustaviti aphaške pobunjenike. Tvrdi to gruzijski čelnik Ševarnadze, za kojeg se, tvrdi strani izvjestitelj, još uvijek ne zna gdje je.
It had been a long and demoralizing battle. Government troops, hopelessly outnumbered, had fought tooth and nail to keep the rebels at bay. But their casualties were high, reinforcements couldn't push their way through, and despite the personal direction of President Eduard Shevardnadze, they could go on no longer. The rebels blasted their way through the front lines, forcing the president to flee his military hideout, despite his protestations that he'd rather stay and die alongside his people. Now, residents of the bombed-out city, many of whom have lost friends and relatives in 12 days of fierce fighting, face an extremely uncertain future under occupied control. But reports indicate Shevardnadze didn't go far. His new base is thought to be just 8 miles outside the city. In the meantime, his political career rests on a knife edge. Before the city fell, he confided in his aides but he thought Georgia might well disintegrate if Sukhumi was captured. If it does, he'll be putting the blame squarely on Russian shoulders. The president has issued a statement accusing the Russian military of ignoring Sukhumi's plight, despite repeated requests for help. He claims the city could have been saved even as late as this morning if its troops had intervened. Sarah Ewan, Sky News.
Gdje je zapravo Abhazija i što ona uopće želi? Analizira CNN-ov novinar.
Intense fighting over the weekend between Abkhazian and Georgian forces was focused on one bloody objective: control of Sukhumi. The regional capital of Sukhumi is the last stronghold of Georgian government forces in Abkhazia. The Abkhazian region is recognized internationally as part of Georgia, but the separatists are demanding their independence and fighting hard to gain it. Many key positions in the hills around Sukhumi are under the control of the Abkhazian forces, as are the railway station and television tower. Georgian leader Eduard Shevardnadze is vowing to remain with his troops in Sukhumi until the end, and he's rejecting an Abkhazian offer of a safe corridor to withdraw. Some humanitarian aid has reached the city by air, but at considerable risk. Several civilian aircraft have been targeted by Abkhazian forces. 126 were killed in the downing of 3 civilian aircraft last week. Bodies and belongings from one of those flights drifted in the Black Sea. The raging battle is forcing the evacuation of thousands of residents, many refugees on foot, taking only what they can carry on their backs. Others making an uncertain exodus by sea. In former times, the beaches of Sukhumi were filled with tourists. Now they're filled only with the sounds of war. Rob Golden, CNN, reporting.
U Moskvi još ništa nije sigurno. Prosvjedi, napetosti i glasine haraju gradom. Hoće li članovi parlamenta napustiti Moskvu?
Another freezing night on the barricades, more tension as the standoff continues in Moscow. Barricaded inside the parliament building, ringed by Interior Ministry riot police, the parliamentarians insist they remain the lawful government. In the early hours in the darkened building, there was another crisis as Parliamentary Speaker Ruslan Kasparlatov insisted an attack was imminent.
Half an hour ago, we received information that very shortly Oman riot police will start storming the White House.
The barricades were strengthened and Kasparlatov insisted the building would be defended with weapons, but no assault was made. This morning, the alert had been cancelled, another tense night over.
Rumours fly thick and fast in this uneasy atmosphere, whipping up fears. Other talk is that the parliament is about to move out of Moscow to St. Petersburg or Novosibirsk, both of which have offered to host the defiant legislators, but no one really knows.
Boris Yeltsin is maintaining the pressure. He needs to end the confrontation before it scuttles the elections he's announced for December and June. He insists they're at their last gasp and no compromise is possible, but so does Russia's other president, parliamentary nominee Alexander Rutskoy, who warned last night of a fight to the death if the White House is attacked. But this morning his supporters were parading before the White House armed with wooden staves, a curious assortment of paramilitary types and elderly communists. In the chilly autumn morning, they posed an uncertain threat to the thousands of flak-jacketed police surrounding them. Jackie Rowley, Sky News, Moscow.
Koji je najbrži vlak u Europi? Francuzi kažu njihov, jer čak su im i Nijemci dali prednost, pa će tako na liniji Paris-Keln za 4 godine voziti francuski TGV.
TGV, son avance technologique. Le train français est multisystème, c'est-à-dire qu'il s'adapte aux différents types de voies et surtout d'alimentation électrique. Pas de problème donc de voltage pour sauter les frontières, alors que le concurrent allemand, l'ICE, reste lui confiné à la République fédérale. Un intercity qui n'a d'ailleurs d'express que le nom. Mise en service il y a 2 ans, prévu pour rouler à 250 km/h, l'ICE peine à tenir ses promesses. Plutôt lourd, plutôt cher, l'ICE souffre en outre d'un réseau de voies vétustes qui ne lui permet pas de se montrer sous son jour le plus rapide. Résultat, quelques lignes intérieures modèles, mais partout ailleurs, l'allure d'un tortillard. Un seul exemple, Bonn-Berlin, 620 km, mais 7h30 de train. C'est donc tout logiquement que 27 rames du TGV français rouleront dès 1997 entre Paris, Bruxelles, Amsterdam et Cologne. Accord entre les 4 pays concernés, commande d'un montant de 5 milliards de francs, 3 rames seront payées par les Allemands. Une version internationale, donc multisystème de l'ICE allemand, est bien prévue, mais elle n'est toujours pas sortie des planches à dessin.
I još jednom vlaku, Orient Expressu. Sve nas to vjerojatno odmah asocira na poznati roman Agate Christie o intrigama i ubojstvima u tom luksuznom putničkom vlaku. No, na prvom putovanju istočnog Orient Expressa od svega toga ništa. Ipak, uzbuđenja ne manjka.
The grand opening of a supermarket, a car dealership. No, this royal party is for a passenger train. The guest list included the Prince and Princess Michael of Kent, the Earl and Countess of Snowdon, and a few movie stars, Jane Powell, Arlene Dahl, and a movie critic, Rex Reed. The script wasn't by Agatha Christie, but this is the inaugural journey of the Eastern and Oriental Express. A diverse group of characters thrown together for 42 hours traveling from Singapore to Bangkok. The 22 cars include 3 for dining, 2 for drinking, and the rest for sleeping. Along the way, there were celebrations, snake charmers, local food, and dance. The Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dr. Mahathir, and other government officials spent the night.
If you're a film buff who pays attention to detail, you might recognize the inside of the train. It was patterned after a 1930s film, Shanghai Express.
The interior designers found a copy of the film in the Paris archives, and they had frames blown up, and then they used the design of that train as a model for the interior of this train.
The interior is different. Teak instead of mahogany, no red crushed velvet, it's pink. Film critic Rex Reed gives a mixed review.
It's still quite elegant, and the actual train experience itself is fun, but a train is a train, and 2 days on one and 2 nights on one, how many banana trees can you look at, you know?
Actually, the trees throughout most of the trip are not banana. On one side they are palm, and on the other, rubber trees. But the view is what others seem to like most.
The people see the train going through, and there's a tremendous feeling of warmth, and you can communicate with them in a nice way, because you can't do that from an ordinary train.
The scenery, I have been so busy looking at the train, I haven't seen too much of it, or else I've been asleep.
But it is the scenery that is unique here, from the train station in Kuala Lumpur at night to fog-covered mountaintops in southern Thailand. The view from a train is something special if you have the time and the money to take the trip. Tom Bintier, CNN on the Eastern and Oriental Express in southern Thailand.
Štovani gledatelji, bilo je to sve za večeras. Gledajte emisiju Slikom na sliku i sutra. Doviđenja i laku noć.
Good evening and welcome to the Croatian television news in English. President of the Republic is in New York, where he is attending the 48th session of the UN General Assembly. And here is our summary of the day's events.
Croatian president today met for talks with the president of the Security Council, Adolfo Raul Tajhardat, in the UN building in New York. President Tudjman expressed his hope that the Security Council will accept Croatia's proposals concerning the extension of UNPROFOR's mandate in the Republic. He also stressed that Croatia demands the implementation of all relevant Security Council resolutions, particularly the Resolution 769 concerning UNPROFOR's control over Croatia's borders.
President Tudjman also met the President of Macedonia, Kiro Gligorov, with whom he had discussed the current situation in former Yugoslavia. He also had a brief meeting with the British Foreign Secretary Douglas Hurd and attended a reception given by the Secretary-General Boutros Ghali.
The UN General Assembly began its session at 3 p.m. Central European Time with a speech by the Brazilian Foreign Minister Celso Amorim. The next speech was delivered by the U.S. President Bill Clinton, who pledged his country's involvement into international issues despite the reform carried out at home.
We support Croatia's demands for the revision of UNPROFOR's mandate, or else it must withdraw from Croatia. This was stated at today's press conference of the Croatian Refugee Association, whose representatives pointed out that if the mandate of the peacekeeping force should be extended, those who had moved into their homes must be made to leave within 2 months.
The Congress of Bosnian Muslims began its session in Sarajevo this afternoon. The 350 participants are expected to make a decision on whether or not to accept the Geneva peace package.
In Velika Kladuša late this afternoon, some 400 members of the Regional Assembly decided unanimously to proclaim and constitute the autonomous province of Western Bosnia. Member of the Bosnian presidency, Fikret Avdić, was appointed the president of the newly proclaimed autonomous province by acclamation.
Meanwhile, fighting continues unabated in the Gornji Vakuf area in central Bosnia. Fierce clashes have been reported between Croatian Defense Council and Muslim forces in the close vicinity of the base in which the British battalion of the peacekeeping force is stationed. Further south in Mostar, it is reported to have been relatively quiet, with sporadic provocations.
Viktor Baranikov, appointed the security minister by the Russian parliament, has defected to Yeltsin's side. He left the parliament building in Moscow and sent a message to Boris Yeltsin that he always had been and would be loyal to him. Meanwhile, Hasbulatov and Rutskoy vowed that they would use arms to defend the parliament, the constitution and democracy.
Following 2 weeks of bloody battles, the Abkhazian capital Sukhumi has fallen into the hands of Abkhazian separatists. The Georgian president, Eduard Shevardnadze, has left Sukhumi and is reported to be safe.
And finally, here is the weather forecast for Tuesday. A fresh cloud up with rain and thunder showers coming from the west is expected to spread over most areas of Croatia as the day wears on. Maximum temperatures should range between 16 and 25 degrees centigrade. And that's all from us for tonight. From all of us in our Zagreb studios, have a very good night.